I was 14 years old when I met Dexter. He came to our school in the middle of the year. The first time I noticed him was in the science lab. Our teacher asked a trick question and Dexter was the one who answered it in a whiff. Though everyone got the impression of the new nerd in town, I had mixed feelings. He avoided every other kid like a plague, always ate lunch alone, and hardly talked about anything other than assignments. He was very smart, no doubt, so when Mrs. Rupert asked us to pair up for our biology assignment, I chose him. My grades were low and I wanted to improve. I walked up to Dexter, who was watching the freshly skinned frog lying on the tray with undivided attention.
Hi, I'm Casey. I wanted to ask you something.
His eyes shifted towards me, and he spoke in a cracked-up voice. This better be important, woman. You're interrupting my very delicate calculations. I couldn't understand what kind of calculation can be done from a dead frog, but I continued in a polite tone.
I was wondering if we could be lab partners. I need your help to up my grades.
Good.
What?
It's good to know that you're stupid. Other kids in this school just don't bother. No matter how obnoxiously rude he was, I still kept quiet. I had to for my purpose. We signed our names as lab partners, and I asked him will he be interested to discuss the project at my house. Surprisingly, he asked me to do it in his place. Knowing how secretive and mysterious this new kid was, I never expected him to invite me into his den. But I was very curious to know about his life, so I immediately agreed. He lived behind the graveyard in a big old house. As we reached the gate, I said,
Whoa, doesn't it feel weird to live here?
Why? They're all dead. What will they do? I smiled awkwardly, thinking he was joking, but he kept a serious face like always. He rang the doorbell about 5 to 7 seconds. A woman welcomed us in. Dexter introduced her as his mom, and I kid you not, she was even weirder than him. She barely blinked, and her movements were so lifeless. Mom, this is my lab partner, Casey. We will be studying in my room. Don't disturb us.
Okay, son. I won't.
She sounded so freaking dead. I was shocked to see how Dexter controlled her mom, as he was the boss of the house. We walked past a long corridor, and then entered the room. I was expecting his room to be filled with gadgets and science stuff, but it was a very normal room. A little too normal for a nerdy teenager. There was a study table and a bed. That's all. He went to get some water and warned me not to touch anything in his room, though there was nothing to touch. Once he left, I sat on his bed wondering how everything wasn't adding up when I saw this red button on the wall. I got up to inspect it closely. It looked more like a fire alarm, but why was it in his room? What are you doing? I heard Dexter's voice from behind.
What does this button do?
Nothing your stupid brain can understand, so move away! This was the final straw he pulled, and in anger, and to teach him a lesson, I pressed it. Casey, no! As soon as I did that, the opposite wall of the room slid open, and a secret laboratory surfaced in front of my eyes. It was bigger than our school lab and had so many scientific instruments I was seeing for the first time. But what scared me the most was these 3 huge incubators placed in a row right in the center of the lab. Each was roughly 7 to 9 feet tall and filled with an ominous green liquid. And that wasn't all. In the 3 incubators floated 3 identical women, looking none other than Dexter's mom.
How? What the hell is this?
Nothing, just my experiments.
Are these some weird dolls of your mother?
Silly humans. They are all my mother.
What?
The one in the middle was the naturally born one, and the other 2 are created by me. I cloned them. My head started banging. Is this guy effing kidding me? Did he clone his mom?
What happened to your mom?
Nothing. She killed herself when my dad left her, and I started to get lonely. I refused to bury her, unlike those other corpses, so I made clones of her. But the first 2 experiments were failures. Both of them were nothing like her. The 4th one, the one who just let us in, is my new addition to this collection. So far, so good. But let's see.
Is this even possible? I mean, I can't believe it. You just bloody cloned a human being?
Oh, Casey, don't be so dramatic. There must be a stripping of the old before you can make way for the new. I won't stop till I make her exactly how she was, how she cared for me and smiled at me. None of the clones ever smiled or blinked. They're just dead humans walking like robots. But I won't give up. I am a genius and I will bring her back, Casey. I will. Suddenly, a loud thud took place outside his room. Dexter ran towards it, as he had already guessed what the sound meant. I followed the maniac, and once we stepped into the living room, I saw a horrible sight. Dexter's fourth clone's mom was lying on the floor, quivering violently like she was having a seizure. Tons of green fluid exploded from every inch of her body, from her eyes, from her mouth, and from her ears. No! No! This wasn't supposed to happen! Mother! Mother! Dexter ran towards the clone, who was adding up to be his other failure in creating his mom's clone. He grabbed her head with his hand and started shaking it like a madman. He screamed and cried, trying his best to save the clone from dying out, but it was too late already. I wanted to help him. I wanted to tell him that the experiment he was doing could never be successful. Bringing a dead person back has always been against the natural law of the universe, but I couldn't stand and watch this insanity anymore. I ran back to his room, grabbed my bag, and made my way out of Dexter's house. When I was on the porch, I turned back to glance at a broken boy going crazy over his mother's unfortunate death. Dexter looked at me with angry, tearful eyes, and then shut the door in my face. Reaching home, I couldn't tell my parents what I saw at a 14-year-old boy's house. I knew no one will believe me. I was petrified to face Dexter in school the next day. Now that I knew his secret, I was sure my life was in danger too. But surprisingly, Dexter never showed up. He left without a trace. A few months later, his house turned into this abandoned place where no one set foot. I never dared to check if his secret laboratory was still inside his room or not. Deep down, I still believe he's going on with his freaky experiment.